I'm Corbett Wall with DV Auction, here with your feeder flash for Friday, October the 28th, brought to you in part by Noromycin by Norbrook. Noromycin 300 LA is effective and economical and is your go-to antibiotic for a wide range of cattle diseases and infections. Here on Wednesday afternoon, some friends and I, we treated about 50 head of calves that were on the cows, sorted them off and give them a shot of Noromycin because the weather change just showed that they looked like they needed it. We treated them and one overpriced show pig all for less than $100 with one jug 500 milliliter of Noromycin, and worked very well. And I think you guys could get along with it too. For more information, go to norbrook.com. How did we get here? And you think, well, what are you talking about? How did we get here in this seller's market with your prices all going up? People finally having a chance to make some money. If you're not making any money on your cattle right now, you probably paid too much for them, or you lost too many of them or something like that. But people are getting a chance to get some impressive prices for their fat cattle. It's bringing up your calf market. The green yearlings are selling off the chart. Your backgrounded yearlings are selling well. How did we get here? Well, you say, well, we've gone through several droughts in major production areas. Yeah, that brings that along. We've had a deep coal and a big sell-off of cows, and we're running on really tight supplies. And whether you want to admit it or not, it is a cyclical deal, and we're in the cycle. And every 8 or 9 years, your cattle feeders get an opportunity to make a little money for a year or two, and then they go back and lose money for another 7 or 8. But yes, it's a cyclical deal. Yes, I realize that. But how did we get to where all of our fat cattle on a direct basis, for the most part, and I'm say all of them, are bringing 150 and better? How did we get there? Negotiation. Did we get it there through some kind of a sweetheart deal, through some kind of a formula arrangement, an alternative marketing arrangement, the AMAs that everybody brags about, some kind of a platinum Excalibur branded beef program thing? Is that how we got there? No. Negotiation. That's what you got to have. You got to have negotiation. That's how we did it. We gained a lot of ground last week. A little disappointed in the ground that we gained this week. I told you guys on our last visit that I thought the Southern Plains might gain more ground than the Northern Plains did this week, and indeed it happened. On Thursday, it closed the gap a little bit between the premium that the Northern Plains is getting, and right here when we don't have many cattle grading as high into the quality grade as what packers are really wanting, yet the Southern Plains gained $2 from 148 to 150, and the Northern Plains on a live basis didn't gain a hell of a lot of anything. Mostly steady to $2 higher on the low side of your price range. But if you look at your weighted average on what was reported confirmed in Iowa and Nebraska, basically it was 152. We had that last week. What happened? How did the wheel fall off? I mean, we were going gangbusters. The packers wouldn't have let that happen if they were in charge of the negotiations. And I think maybe we need, as cattle people, to take some lessons from your packers as far as negotiation. What happens when everything's in their favor, when supply outweighs demand and the market's going down? They'll put their boot on the top of your head and push you under, and won't let them come up for air. I mean, till the bubbles almost completely go away, and then maybe let them come up for a little bit of safe. But I can't believe it. You remember what was going on during the COVID? Don't you remember that? Whenever production was slowed, we had way too much supply. I mean, they were taking it in hunks, guys, week after week after week. And they finally got to a point where it was drawing so much attention, and they were embarrassed so much that they started putting out token bids that, bidding more than people were even priced at. it got so bad. But they didn't do that right away. I mean, they took the market down in a hurry. But yet, your cattle feeders, knowing that they're in the driver's seat in a seller's market, gave in. You know, all your northern guys were priced at 155. We never got any 155. Now, I heard a rumor that there was a little bit of 154 traded, but of course it didn't get turned in, because on the up market, your packers are really lax on turning that higher prices in to mandatory price reporting. It's their job to put it into the database and send it at 10 o'clock and 2 o'clock every day, and they're just a little lax getting those highest prices in there. I'm sure that 154 happened, and I'm sure that it'll get reported in the week's wrap up, but well, there's no need for everybody to know about that right now, right? But all we had confirmed was from 151 to 153 and a half, and like I said, mostly 152. And I don't know why we don't have more retired packer buyers doing a training session, kind of a clinic on how you negotiate cattle. CBP, Consolidated Beef Producers, at its inception had one of your biggest packer buyers in the Southern Plains as one of their cattle sellers. Worked out really well for a long, long time. But I think they really need to do that. Last week, our total movement of sales, negotiated grid, contract, and formula deals only added up to about 468,000. That was last week. That was on a bigger movement. Here the week before was like 380,000. We slaughter well over 500,000 steers and heifers every week. There's a gap there. And they're not filling a 40, 50, 60, or 100,000 head gap in the few fat cattle auctions that they go to. They are short bought extremely. They need the cattle. They didn't even hide it in the brick and mortar sales that we saw early this week. I have to give kudos to the Fed Cattle Exchange. The Fed Cattle Exchange, to my knowledge, is the first place that we saw 150 confirmed in Texas on Thursday. They're doing a good job. They're putting cattle up for bids. They've got people that are wanting to sell cattle. They've got big outfits that are wanting to sell cattle. They've got packers that are wanting to buy cattle. This thing's kind of coming to them with the tight supplies that we have. And they're letting people bid on straight live cattle, on a dress basis, on a bid to grid or bid in a negotiated bid, and I think it's working pretty well. I think it's a good place to have that. I think it's something that's going on that's shaking things up a little bit. I mean, they've got big corporate feeders selling to packers that they're not aligned with. What's up with that? I mean, that's like dogs and cats sleeping in the same kennel. I think it's great. I think we need more of that. I think it's a way that we could get more negotiated trade and get it reported. And I tell you what, you guys keep asking me about the Cattle Price Discovery and Transparency Act. It's not dead yet. I did everything in my power to try to push it forward. U.S. Cattlemen's Association did everything they could to push it forward. It wasn't RCAF's idea, so that they kind of stayed out of it. National Corporate Beef Association has done everything in their power, and of course their power is a whole lot more, to kill it. Colin Woodall from National Corporate Beef Association spoke to the Texas Cattle Feeders Association this week and bragged about how he and his lobbyists had stamped out Cattle Price Discovery and Transparency Act for this year and wouldn't have to worry about that. And he was expecting a standing ovation like he had outlawed fake meat or something like that. Thought everybody'd be hooping and hollering. Nobody hooped and hollered. There's only 4 big entities that were really against Cattle Price Discovery and Transparency Act that NCBA represents. They're the packers. The only other ones, the other ones were told to be against Cattle Price Discovery and Transparency Act. I talked to them person to person off the record. They're not against it. They're told to be against it, and they can't outwardly, openly support it. They would like to see something change too. They know how we get a higher market. You have to negotiate for a higher market. I'll say it one more time. It's damn hard to gain a buck in the market when you're selling off last week all the time. You have to ask more for cattle, demand more for cattle, put your heels in the ground when you know they need them, like they need them right now, and it's going to get worse. I mean, they're going to need your cattle more as we're going forward. And you guys, you just got to put your heels in the ground and just refuse the lower or steady bids, or the bids that are only a buck higher, or something like that. If you want to gain ground, you have to get together and you have to do it. The Southern Plains did that this week. Northern Plains not so much, because they were still all giddy about what they got done last week. Now, I will say that they gained some ground on a dress basis. The dress basis sales that were reported this week on Thursday were $4 to $5 higher, from $237 up to $240.75. Hell, your Packers gained $9 in the meat on choice boxes. You have the right to get more money for these cattle. Watch these feeder cattle guys. They put them up for bids in an auction in a negotiated manner, and look at the prices that they get. I'm going to give a bunch of them to you here at the end of this report. But look at your board for Thursday. October live cattle futures down a nickel, 150, 140. December was down 15 cents at 153.42. Even your board was kind of disgusted with the trade the way it was going. Your back months were down 7 to down 40 cents. Feeder cattle for October down 45 at 175.97. November down 70, and people blowing their brains out on these cattle guys. And November down 70 at 178.12. Why is your futures market volatile whenever we know we're in an up market? That's just the nature of it, guys. It has to go up and down. Your day traders don't make any money, and there'll be nobody to place those orders. But your back months on your feeder cattle down 5 cents to down 80 cents. Talk about your Chicago Board of Trade corn futures. They were down 2 3/4 cents a bushel at 682 1/4. Beans up a half cent a bushel, and beans have been just unexpectedly calm here, right as they're right in the middle of, on the backside of harvest. All of a sudden, there's just no volatility in your beans, and I can't believe I'm saying that, because the last year or two, I mean, they've just been swinging one way and then the other. But I mean, not even moving a tick off steady. But 13.82 1/4 cents a bushel for beans, November new crop. Let's talk about your fat cattle market, and I say I'm just disgusted in it. Yeah, it's steady to higher. It just could have been better. We've got 4 to 6 weeks here to really gain a lot of ground, and every time we let one of these weeks go where we don't get a big hunk more of market position, it's a wasted opportunity. Colorado's confidential. Why do I tell you that every single day? Because it's ridiculous that there's trade going on in Colorado and we can't see what it is. And it's not going to be that long, guys, the way things are going, that we're going to lose transparent trade and market in one of your other 5 area feeding regions of the 5. So we've lost one. So now we have a 5 area feeding region, but we only get to see the market out of 4 of them. We'll probably lose Texas next, and then it'll just be 3. But look at your prices in Iowa. On 5,600 head, only 8,900 head for the week. I think there was a lot more trade than that on Thursday that they did not get put in. Yes, a lot of it happened in the late afternoon, but a lot of it happened early enough to get it reported through NPR, but they don't hold their feet to the fire to get that information in there, especially on an up market. They're really lax about putting that stuff in. But live sales in Iowa confirmed from 151 to 153. That's really just mostly steady to instances $2 higher on the bottom side. But like I said, your weighted averages were about 152, so big whoop. Like I said, the 154 that I heard rumored of did not get confirmed. Your dress sales ranged from 238 to 240. That was significantly higher, but not as much as what your packers are getting on box beef cutouts. Nebraska, 7,800 head confirmed on Thursday, 8,100 head for the week, and a lot more to come there. I'm not sure if we'll see any Friday sales. I think it'll mostly be late Thursday sales that come in on Friday, but live sales in Nebraska, 152 to 153 and a half, mostly 152. Dress sales from 237 to 240.75. Kansas, 3,900 head, 5,400 head only for the week, and I think there was a lot more of that, and there'll be more to come. Live sales in Kansas at 150. I did hear rumors of 151 in Kansas on Thursday morning, but we never saw them come out on mandatory price reporting, so I'm not sure. I'm sure it'll come out when we get the week's wrap up, but it'll be too late by then for other people to see that. But some dress sales at 240, which is pretty good for a dress market in Kansas. Of course, that happens on the northern side. Pretty significant negotiated grid, 13,300 head turned in on negotiated grid. Not a lot of negotiating there. It's mostly at the market, but they do that to get the cattle, and then they give a few kickers to the guys that are able to get that. Texas, 3,700 head confirmed on Thursday, only 5,300 head for the week. Live price only at 150, and like I said, in the Southern Plains, that's $2 higher, and congratulations to them. Box beef cutout values, choice cuts up $1.63, gained nearly $9 already this week, and we still got Friday to go. 260, 249. Selects 331 higher at 231.91. Your slaughter, very aggressive, more aggressive even than last week, and last week was a huge 674,000 head harvest. 512,000 up through Thursday this week. That's 3,000 more than the same period last week, 23,000 more than the same week a year ago. Your actual slaughter information come back for the week ending October the 15th. And I'll be darned if those average dressed steer carcass weights are not 4 pounds higher than the previous report at 924 pounds. And huge carcasses, the cattle are still not grading near high enough of what the packers want on a percentage choice. And primes are getting back to where they're just a fluke of nature like they were many years ago before we had camera grading and holding up the cattle like they did during the COVID. But you know, primes are getting so scarce. If you're hanging your cattle, selling them on the grid or something like that, you can get nearly $100 a head bonus for a prime carcass if you can get one. We wish we knew more about how to get those, but we've got a lot of people that are trying. Let's talk about what else is going on. I'm headed out east to Paris, Texas, to the Red River Beefmaster Performance Group's Red River Bull Sale that's going to be Saturday at 11 o'clock a.m. in Paris, Texas. Hopefully you guys that are in the area can come out there and join me. Let's talk about your feeder cattle market, your real-time index on DB auction late in the day on Thursday, sitting at 175.43, up 72 cents. You see your CME cash feeder cattle index is under 175. Got to come together with this spot October feeder cattle futures, which is right up against 176. Talk about your big sales. Pratt, Kansas, winter livestock in Pratt, 4,000 head there. Feeders were steady to $5 higher. Calves were lower, and that's a little curious to me, but like I said, that market reporting in Kansas sucks. And they had a lot of real premium type consignments last week, I remember, on the calves. And it's hard to believe that the calf market was that much lower, maybe just the kind or whatever. But you guys know how that works out. Let's talk about another big sale in Kansas, Farmers and Ranchers Livestock in Salina, Kansas. Just 2,400 head in Salina this week. But feeders were $3 to $8 higher. Sure believe that, including this stick out sale in Salina. 58 head, 932 pound steers at 184.50. Your Zoetis stick-out sale of the day was Mitchell Livestock Marketing in Mitchell, South Dakota. 6,300 head there all together. Look at this automated market report from Cattle Market Central. And I will tell you, your 6 weights were sharply higher on both steers and heifers. Otherwise, your market was just kind of lightly mixed there. But look at 694 head of 5-weight steers in Mitchell, average 553 at 203.41 on the weighted average. 609 head of 6-weight steers, average 640 with a weighted average price of 196 1/4. Now on the heifers, they sold a lot more heifers than steers. 540 head of 5-weight heifers, average 543 with a weighted average price of 184.36. 615 head of 8-weight heifers, averaged 852 at 166.02 on the average, and 608 head of 9-weight heifers, averaged 949 with a weighted average price of 159.94. I'm going to give you guys several individual quotes from all around the circuit because the market was just wild on Thursday, and we had some really stick out deals. Lamona Livestock Market there in Lamona, Iowa. Got some friends that run that. Said they had 54 head of steer calves, weighed 505 at 228.50. That'd be a pretty impressive quote there. My good buddy Barry Bowes, that I never get to see or talk to anymore, that worked at St. Joe Stockyards for about 50 years. He's marketing his cattle partly at 3 state stockyards in Falls City, Nebraska, and he sold the Hubert and Justin Gregory cattle that I've watched sell 100 times at least. Sold them on Thursday. There was 175 head of steers, weighed 936 at $184. Tell you what, you guys are missing the boat, and I don't like to give lower quotes, but I'm telling you what, Wilcox Livestock Auction in Wilcox, Arizona has good cattle. I've been there before. I've seen the cattle. They're desert cattle. They're hard cattle. The cattle are pretty much weaned their whole life out there. There's not much for them, and they got pretty darn good quality. And you can view and bid that sale every week right on DV Auction. And Wilcox Livestock Auction on Thursday sold some solid red and black steer calves, 57 head of them, weighed 445 at 190 1/4. Talk about Bluegrass Stockyard South. Now that's an eastern market, and you think their market goes to pot when the weather gets cold and they're going to have to feed during the cold. Well, in Stanford, Kentucky, Bluegrass Stockyard South, they sold 65 head, 842-pound steers at 172. That's sure nothing to squeeze at. I got to congratulate my friend the Herzogs in Butler, Missouri at Mocan Livestock Market. They had a hell of a sale. I told you about the sale on our last visit. Said they were going to have several grass yearlings on there, and they sure did, and they sold really well. They had 256 head, 742-pound lightweight green grass yearlings, bring 190.10. 316 head of those green steers weighed 8 1/4 at $188. They had several long strings of heifers too, including some black calf weight yearling heifers there. 208 head, weighed 657 at 189.75. And then a set of keeping heifers, which I haven't got to see a whole lot of those, but some replacement heifers bought for replacement. 61 head, weighed 731 at 184.75. That was at Mocan Livestock Market, Butler, Missouri. But the most impressive quote that I saw anywhere on Thursday, and I hope you guys are sitting down, your Macrison, no BS, top quote for the day, come out of Valentine Livestock Market up in Valentine, Nebraska, extreme northwestern Nebraska. Greg spiked the punch once again, and Dan Dent steers 140 head of them, weighed 805, and bring $2.10 a pound. That's just shy of $1,700 a head, guys. And that's your feeder flash for Friday.